Today we're going to talk about a couple of things that you can do in Google Sheets or in Excel that you may or may not have seen before. So we're going to use this in an electoral college project starting next week. So you need to be familiar with Google Sheets and how some of the equations work in Google Sheets. So let's look at this data we have right here. I just pulled this straight off of websites that are pertaining to population and size in square miles of counties in Texas. So I just picked some counties around us, picked our county and a couple of counties around us. So this is true data, as recent as I could get it. And I gave you population and size in square miles. So this is how big they are in square miles, and population as of probably 2010. It may have been updated a little more, but this is census information. So, looking at our counties here, if I asked you to find the total population in all of these 7 counties, right, all you would need to do is add them up. Well, here's the thing: 7 counties is not so hard to add up in your calculator. But when we start moving on to talking about states, we don't want to add up 50 populations in a calculator. And actually, it's going to be 51 because we're talking about the Electoral College. It's going to be 51, including Washington, D.C., get some electors to vote. So this is what you're going to do. When you think about a total or adding, the answer to an addition problem is called the sum, right? So this is what you're going to tell the computer to do, is to sum these specific cells. So that's what we're going to do, okay? Anytime you start an equation in Google Sheets or Excel, they start with an equal sign. So if you just type sum, it's not going to actually do anything. It just has the letters SUM on there. But if you type equals sum, it should pop something up at the bottom. So watch here. If I'm doing the total, notice over here, if I'm doing the total, I will put an equal sign. I'm not clicking in the right spot. Equal sign, and then sum. Well, and it already has some suggestions there, so that's really what we want to do. But if you start typing in sum, this bottom part will pop up, and you can say, okay, I want the sum of a series of numbers and or cells. So you can click on it, it'll open a parentheses, and it says, okay, tell me what you want me to add up. So really all you have to do is drag and drop. You're going to click on the first thing that you wanted to add and then drag all the way down to the end. So this is cells B2 through is the colon, B8. We're going to close our parentheses and hit enter. That actually adds it. Okay. So the other thing is that we're used to seeing numbers with commas, right? So it's kind of hard to tell without looking and thinking if this is a million, 100,000, 10,000, this kind of stuff, right? So what you can do is you can change the format of this to be a number. So we want all of these guys to be formatted as a number. So I highlight them and we say, okay, I want format as a number. Well, here's the thing. We're not going to have percents, or we're not going to have a portion of a person. We're not going to have a decimal. So you can make the decimals go away. So I want to decrease the decimals, and now you're back to people. And now you can clearly see there's commas where we need them. Now, if it asks you for the average of anything, average population between these 7 counties. Again, we're about to do an equation. We're asking it to find the average. So you start with an equal sign, and then notice it already knows what you're about to do, and it gives you a suggestion. But if you start typing in average, okay, it says, hey, look, there's an average. This is what you want, okay? An average, ignoring text values, of these 7 numbers, B2 through B8. Drag and drop your cells, close the parentheses, hit enter. Okay, so the average is 79,507 people between these 7 counties. Remember that an average is the sum, add them all up, and then divide by the number of things, right? But instead of having to do this by hand, the computer does it completely for you. Okay, so this is what's really good about Google Sheets. So here, the size in square miles. So if we wanted the total number of square miles, then you would do sum. If you wanted the average number of square miles between these 7 counties, you would say equal sign average. I want you to do both of these and then check it on Edpuzzle. All right, here again, notice that my numbers here are not like this one. I probably want to put commas in. So again, you can go through and do format as a number, and there's your comma if you want it. Same thing here. If you want less decimal places, you can use these two. Decrease the decimal places, round to the nearest tenth, 701.8. If you just wanted to round to the nearest square mile, you could again hit this button, 702. So it'll round correctly for you as well. All right, hopefully you got these right. Now we're going to move on to the percent of the total population. Okay, so when we're talking about percent, by the way, hopefully you remember that percent is the part divided by the whole. And normally we do times 100, so it'll give you a percent, right? But there's this nifty little button right here, and it's a percent button. So it does this if you click the percent button. So really you just need to do the part divided by the whole. So here, let's look at Gregg County's population as a percent of the total population of these 7 counties. So what you do is, again, we're starting an equation. We want to do part divided by whole. So we're going to start with an equal sign. Then we do the part, which is Gregg County's population, divided by, you use the little / right next to shift, divided by the total population down here, which is B10. And if you hit enter, it'll give you a decimal. Remember, we want it as a percent though, so I'm going to click on this and be like, okay, format me as a percent. So out of these 7, Gregg County includes 22.44%. Now, I know some of you know about this nifty little drag and drop here. And if you take this and drag it down, it'll do the same formula, okay, all the way down. But the problem is that it's going to take the total and move it down too. So this is the one, I'll remind you of this when we're doing it in class, but we want it to be the cell that's in B always divided by B10. So if we're on this one, we want this cell divided by B10. If we're in this one, we want this cell divided by B10. So what you do is, to make B10 stay constant, you put $B, $10. So I'm going to add that in, and it doesn't change anything except for the fact now here I can drag and drop this one down. So now percent of the total population, this should add up to 100, right? So if we do sum and add these guys up to 100, oops. And so if you get this question mark name like I just did, it doesn't know what you're asking, and it's because we didn't put a parentheses here. We didn't open up a parentheses. So here's this, add them up, should equal 100%, and it does. We don't care about the average percent. That is not really a thing we look at. But now let's move on to number of people per square mile. So number of people per square mile. So remember, when you think about the word per in math, this means division. So we're going to do the number of people divided by the number of square miles. So that's what we're going to do. Again, we're going to make an equation because we don't actually want to do this division for all 7. We do equals the number of people, that's the population, divided by the square miles, and hit enter. That's it. Now this one, again, we don't necessarily want anything but 1 decimal, so I'm going to decrease the decimal size to 1. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to drag it down just like this. I'm going to grab that little square at the bottom and drag it all the way down right here. Now, I want you to tell me after you do this, how many people per square mile are in Harrison County? All right, hopefully when you drag and dropped it down, you got 73.3 people per square mile in Harrison County. All right, we are going to stop here. So this is all we're doing. Make sure you've also watched the intro to the Electoral College video that I have posted. All right. Once you do that, then on Monday, we're going to start looking at the Electoral College and start looking at the total population of the United States versus the number of people in the House and the number of people in the Senate. And is it fair? So this is what we're leading into. And I'm super excited about this project because it's really relevant. We're going to start talking about the Electoral College, take a break from really some like what we're normally doing in math class and do a project. So I look forward to it and hopefully you have a great weekend.